Ladies and gentlemen, hello, Officer Tony here. I'm the video editor for this crappy channel. Yeah, today's video is 20 reasons you need more guitars. Ricky stretched pretty far on this one, but maybe you'll like it. I don't know. Hello, Richard from budgetguitarist.com. Today, we're going to go over 20 reasons why you need more guitars. Okay, this is just for fun. Please understand that this is me attempting to be funny. I understand that some people think I have no sense of humor. They're wrong, of course, but I understand. I could probably get by with a bass, an acoustic guitar, and this thing with no problem. If you give me a little more money, I would add a Strat to that collection. If you give me a little more money, I might add a Telecaster, and on it goes. You do not need 20 guitars. You really don't. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you want to be able to justify having a medium-sized guitar collection, or you just want to convince somebody that there are some good reasons for owning more than one guitar. Number one, this is actually a pro tip, okay? Professional guitar players like Tim Pierce will often have different guitars set up with different gauge strings. So they might have some 10s and they might have some 9s. And actually, in this case, I'm holding up some 8s and some 9s, but just pretend. We don't have the budget for a third set of strings for this video shoot. And what Tim Pierce will do is he will put 9s on the guitar where he's going to do the guitar solos, and then he'll put 10s on a different guitar because he wants to play rhythm on 10s. Now, there are some advantages to playing with 10s over 9s. One of the advantages is you can hit the strings harder. There's a lot of videos out there that will tell you, oh, there's no difference in string gauge, and yeah, that's not true actually. If you go to town on a set of 8s or a set of 9s, if you're playing really hard, you're more likely to snap that high E string. That's just depending on how you play. And never mind. So different gauge strings. So if you have two Les Pauls, you put 9s on one and 10s on the other, and one's for rhythm and one's for lead. There you go. Tip number one. Tip number two, different pickups for different styles. Okay, now this is something I do. So the Pearly Gates, or the Epiphone Pro Buckers, if you will. Alnico 2 semi-lower output pickups. They're good for classic rock. They can be good for higher gain stuff, but for super high gain stuff, a lot of players will prefer something like a Super Distortion, Gibson Dirty Fingers, EMGs. There's a lot of higher output pickups that give you a different sound. So if you want to have all the different crayons in the crayon box, so to speak, you might want more than just one humbucker. You might want a variety. You might want some low output, medium output, high output, right? Maybe? Tip number 3, you should have a Telecaster in your collection. Now, why a Telecaster? Well, if you want to play any country, it sounds really good for that. If you want to play Americana, like you want to be Tom Petty, then a Telecaster is a good choice for that. Bruce Springsteen played a Telecaster. Andy Summers of the Police played one. Roy Buchanan, Jeff Beck at one point in time. The Tele is a cool guitar, and the Tele has its own sound, right? So, but you should have a Telecaster in your collection. That's not too much to ask, is it? Number 4, you really should have a Strat. Now, why would you want a Strat? Well, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Well, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Well, Jimi Hendrix, right? And the list goes on, although those are the first 3 that popped into my head. The Strat does the Strat thing, and nothing quite sounds like a Strat. So if you want to do the Strat thing, you should have a Strat. And that's that. Number 5, a Les Paul. I don't care if it's an Epiphone or a Gibson. The Les Paul is the iconic, classic rock and roll guitar. And if that's a style of music you play, well, you should have one to just get that authentic Les Paul tone. And again, Epiphone, Gibson Les Paul Studio, Tribute, whatever the case may be. There's nothing quite like a Les Paul. It sounds so Les Paulish, which sounds a lot like less polish, which could maybe describe my playing. But I'm sure not yours, because I'm sure you are an amazing player. And the reason I play guitar in this channel is so that you can feel better about your own playing. Tip number 6. Since you've got one Les Paul, you really need a second Les Paul, because if you want to record your Les Pauls in stereo, you want them to sound ever so slightly different. So I wouldn't buy the exact same identical Les Paul, but if you had a Gibson and an Epiphone, or if you had an Epiphone from a couple of different years or with different pickups, then you can have that twin stereo Les Paul classic rock sound. Tip number 7. You need a guitar with a locking trem to do the crazy wang bar stuff like Joe Satriani. Now, I'm not holding one here. This does not have a locking trem, but I have a Jackson that does. I'm just too lazy to get up and get it right now. It's actually in that corner on the guitar rack over there. So, but you can do all that screaming stuff and the dive bombs and all the coolness, you know. Just to be able to do that stuff, it's just fun and it sounds impressive to guitar players. Nobody else seems to like it, but you know, we do. And isn't that enough? Number 8, you need a bass. If you're gonna record at home, don't use keyboard bass, get yourself a real bass. Now here's a hot tip for you. Squier Affinity P bass. Do I have, can you see it? Where's mine? Mine's over there. I pulled the frets out of it. But anyway, for like around $200, $220 new, it's a really good value. It really sounds like a Fender P bass, and it's only like $220. You can buy it used for, well, less than that. This is a Schecter. I love Schecter as a company. I think Schecter makes killer guitars and basses. Everybody thinks of them as being like metal stuff. You know, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. All this stuff looks like metal stuff, but this is a great bass. Can't remember what I paid for it. Somewhere around 500-ish. I don't know. Great bass. You should have a bass, though, if you're doing any home recording. It's not easy to crank out a video per week. They can't all be hits out of the park. 9, you need a hollow body electric guitar so that you can, when you play jazz or when you play something like fusion or some Steely Dan-ish kind of stuff, you look and feel authentic. I have the Epiphone ES339, which I got used for $200, or was it $220? Let's go with $200. And yeah, I feel like Larry Carlton when I play it, except that I can't play like Larry Carlton, who I did see in concert once, and he was phenomenal. But anyway, if somebody asks you, why do you need that guitar? You say, well, you know, it's for jazz. It's for jazz fusion. Okay, yeah, I know you can play any style on any guitar, but, you know, everybody else doesn't know that. 10, you need at least one guitar with P90s. And I mean, this one, it could be either or. You could go with Filtertrons or you could go with P90s. They're both cool, funky sounding pickups. I like the P90s because of Phil X. If you don't know Phil X, look him up. He's Madman on the guitar, and I freaking love his playing. So anyway, P90s. Got to have one guitar with P90s. Mine is behind this speaker over here. That's my Gibson Les Paul with P90s. You just can't see it because this thing's in the way. 11, you need one guitar that's super fast and has a super skinny neck on it and super low action, because if your playing is at the level that mine is at, which means I'm not all that fast, you need all the help you can get. And if you get a guitar with a super skinny neck, for a lot of people, that will help you play a little bit faster. It also reduces hand cramping, at least for me. But your mileage may vary. But it's good to have one guitar with just a super fast neck. 12, you need at least one guitar that's just a junker that you can learn on, you know? You can pull out the pickups and you can redo the electronics, and maybe if you get real ambitious, you could try like to refret it and experiment around on it. You don't want to do that on a good guitar. You want a junker for that. Something you pick up for like $100 or less at some garage sale or, you know, guitar convention or something. You need at least one junker. 13, this is the golf analogy. I don't play golf. I took golf in college. I was bad at it, just like every other sport my entire life that I've tried to do. Bowling, I was halfway decent at. I can play poker, but is that a sport or a game? That's a game, right? That's not an athletic. Yeah. Anyway, So I do run, or I used to run. I wasn't fast. Where was I? Oh yeah. Guitars are like golf clubs. If you look at somebody who golfs and you look at their golf bag, do they have one club in the golf bag? No. You're not going to putt with a 9-iron, and you're not going to try to drive the ball 200 yards with a putter. No, you got a putter, you got a sand wedge, you got your irons, you got your woods. Every club in that bag does something slightly different. Well, guess what? That's also the case with these. I don't have any two guitars that sound identical. Perfectly 100% identical. I have guitars that sound 95% similar when mixed into a track, and even I can't tell the difference. But they're not identical. So just you remember that. 14. Some guitars, and this would be an example, are sort of like parking money. I got this guitar on sale for $3.99. I could sell this for $3.99 pretty easily right now if I wanted to, which I don't. Same with the Strats and the Teles, Gibson Les Pauls. You can almost always, a few years later, get what you put into it. Maybe? I don't know. This guitar for sure. So it's sort of like an investment, right? It's sort of like you have money and you buy a guitar and you have years of enjoyment, and then you can just have your money back. You can sell it for what you paid for it, and in some cases more. So win-win. Okay, 15. To me, now I'm serious about this one. No, I really am. Guitars are like works of art. I mean, look at the fret markers on this thing. Look at how, like, there's fingerprints all over it. But if there weren't, look at how pretty this instrument is. It's got the matching headstock color. And just hang it up on the wall and look at it. And I've got hangers. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 guitars hanging in this room here, because to me they're like works of art, and I like to be able to just lie on the couch, watch TV, and look at them, just like a painting. So when you buy a guitar, it's kind of like buying a painting. You can hang it on the wall and you can enjoy it. And 16, because guitars are like works of art, it's a good idea to be able to rotate your collection, because who wants to look at the same 7 paintings for the rest of your life, right? It's good to have like an art collection. It's good to have a guitar collection, because you can rotate the pieces and then you can sit and go, yes, that is a good work of art. Okay, 17, now we're starting to really stretch it. Whenever you buy a rack that holds 5 guitars, you buy one of those, you got like 3 guitars, right? And so you don't have room to keep them in the cases, and you don't want to put them in the garage because of the weather and stuff. So you buy a rack with 5 spaces. You put your 3 guitars in there. Well, here's what happens though. You had 2 spaces left. So in order to make that look nice, you need to buy another 2 guitars so that you can fill those 2 spaces. It's the same with the wall hangers. If you put up a wall hanger, well, you can't not put a guitar there. So if you need to buy another guitar to put, I told you, we're digging pretty deep for the last few. 18. Actually, this one's good. Different guitars will inspire you to play differently. I for sure play differently on this thing than I do on, say, an acoustic guitar or even a Strat. And so if you're trying to compose music, for example, then it's a really good idea to have a bunch of different guitars that will inspire you to write differently. The Jackson guitar that I have with a locking trem, if I play that, I'm definitely playing a certain style of music that'll take advantage of that with the harmonics and the dive bombs, and you get the point. That one's actually really good. And number 19 is also really good, and that is you should have an acoustic guitar. So regardless of whatever style of music you play, there's always room at some point in time for an acoustic guitar. The heaviest metal bands in the world sometimes use acoustic guitars in the quiet section before they come in with everything turned up on 10 and, the ear deafening, that whole deal. So yeah, an acoustic guitar, with steel strings and the sound hole, and you strum the cowboy chords. I've got one, and they're great, and you should have one. And then 20, last but not least, since you already have a regular acoustic guitar, you should just go the rest of the way. You should get a nylon string acoustic guitar, which is often called a classical guitar. And so you can play flamenco on it. You can play classical music on it. You can play some progressive rock on it. Having the nylon strings on that guitar. If you do recordings, right? If you compose music, it's a really neat kind of thing that you can bring in, and it doesn't sound like anything else. Nylon string guitar sounds like a nylon string guitar. Nothing else sounds quite like it. It's a really cool sound. And, you know, you should have one. So there you go. That was 20 reasons why you need a big guitar collection. And, you know, while I sit here wearing my 5-Watt World t-shirt, which is a channel devoted to you getting the most sound out of the least gear, you might think that this is like, well, this is kind of like I'm like giving off two different messages here. Well, yeah, because this is a topic I wanted to do because I thought some of these were actually valid and had a point, and some of them are quite ridiculous. But you know, there are people who don't understand why you need more than one guitar. And out of this list of 20, surely one of these reasons is going to help you at some point in time. Surely one of them will. And for that, you're welcome. And in terms of how you can pay me back for that tip, you could subscribe. That would be very helpful. So please subscribe to this channel so that I can get up to 1,000, which is my next big benchmark. And I will see you again next Friday at 5.